So Apsona is accessed as a tab like you would other objects and features in Salesforce. Once you're in that environment, once you're in Apsona, you also see another series of tabs. And this is dependent on two things as far as the objects you see. It's dependent on the type of Apsona license you have, meaning we have two types of licenses. One is like the full-fledged standard license. You can do all the things in Apsona. And the other one is called a specialized license that's really more of like a view-only experience with Apsona functionality, meaning I might not be the person who's creating reports. I just want to click on a link or click on a button and run a report. Maybe I can do a few other things, but I'm not using Apsona to manage data. So if I was one of those users, a specialized license user, I wouldn't see any of these objects. All I would see is the reporting tools menu because I would only be able to get to reports to run them. The objects that you see give me access to manage the data, meaning I can create records, I can delete records, I can edit records, I can create related records, I can launch into our deduping tool. So with any object, and again, Apsona does give you access to any object that you have in Salesforce. If there's an object that you don't see, it's likely because your configuration just needs to be updated. So your configuration in Apsona is actually the way that Apsona knows what you can do in Apsona and what objects you have access to. So by default, you're going to have access to kind of a standard group of objects. Like if you have a managed package or custom objects, they may not be immediately visible. So you would need to edit the configuration, find and add those objects. And also here's where you can control whether or not users of a particular profile can delete, export, import, mass update, and create and edit records. Now you might be thinking, well, wouldn't I typically be creating and editing records like right in Salesforce, not necessarily in Apsona? I personally find that the Apsona environment is just a little bit easier for a couple of reasons. One, I think Apsona's filtering and the layout, like I'm looking at like a spreadsheet type view. We call this tabular view of any object. Again, your configuration of the objects that you see here could be different. I can easily apply filters, either filters that already exist, or I can create new filters. Once I have those records, I can, if I have the permission, I can edit the record right in line here. I can also, if I needed to update several records at a time, from the tools menu, I can do an update of all or update of selected records. There's a whole bunch of other functionality. I'm not going to get into all the details just yet. I also can view related information by popping out this little caret where in this case we've chosen to add account, relationships, opportunities. I don't know if this person has any of those things, but so I can view not just the contacts data with whatever columns I've added here, but I can also see related information. And again, this is all configurable. This is one of the things that I just learned was a thing. You can actually apply different default tabular view layouts based on your user profile in Apsona. How did I not know that after like almost 10 years of using this product? Anywho, so there's a lot of capability for making this view customized. I can pick and choose what columns I want to see displayed here, and I also can change them and then save it as my own field set so that later I can just select the fields that I want to see. We'll just say, let's say we want Harry's field set, whatever. So I can keep that and I can apply that field set as part of the layout that gets so that like when I log in based on my user profile, I'm going to see the information that's relevant for my role. So one of the other tools that we see from the tools menu is this import update option where, as you might expect, this is where I would go if I want to import or, must have been in the middle of an import. Hang on. Let's try that again so it looks normal. Much better. again, on any object, I should see this option from the tools menu from any of the objects, so I can import records of any type. Now, a couple of things I want to point out here. I can import new records, or I can use this same option to update existing records. We're going to update some or import some new records. I can either copy and paste data or upload a file. I've got a file open over here. I'm going to just select all of these records, come over here, paste that. Now, I've selected copy and paste. The next thing I do is, how am I handling duplicate records? Meaning, do I want to reject them? I don't want to create a duplicate record. Do I want to update the existing record that it finds, or do I want to add without checking at all? Maybe if you know for sure these are not duplicate records, I'm going to leave this at reject, and then I select what field or combination of fields do I want the system to use to determine if it is a duplicate. Now, it gives you some options that are kind of typical, but I also can access, in this case, again, I'm importing contacts. So I have all the contact fields to choose from to create, so if you have like an external ID or something else that you want to use in matching, you can select that here. I'm going to leave it at email, first and last name. This is tab delimited based on how I pasted that. I click next. And now, oh, something else I wanted to point out. I have the option of using a saved mapping. Um, let's see if that one works. So by doing that, what happens when I click next, it should have all of the fields already mapped. This must not be the right one because nothing was mapped. So we're going to leave it at none so you can see how to map anyway. Whoops. Tab delimited. Oh, also, I should point out too, you do have the option if I was choosing to update and there was a null value that wasn't null, I can choose not to overwrite it. And I can also allow invalid pick list values. Why did that revert back to the other thing? Import. Okay. So now notice that it has mapped some of my fields, but not all of them. And that's because it's based on the name, the column header. If it was the exact same name, it would automatically map it. For the ones that are not, I have to create that mapping. I scroll over. And I should save this. And oh, look at that. I have pasted in a blank column. Whatever should I do? Now I could click into this contact type. Here, let me scroll over so you can see the thing. Click into this. It's a drop down. Perhaps these are all friend records. Maybe they're, oops. If they're, this is, I could one by one change what these all should be. Let's say this was a list of volunteers from a recent event and I want to make them all volunteers. Rather than going through this list one at a time for all 20 something records, or if this was a list of 200 records or 2,000 records, that would not be ideal. But what I can do from the actions menu, I can actually find and replace. I want to find blanks and I want to replace it with, oh wait, let me select that. It should be volunteer. Oh, hold on. Oh, that's not the way I want to do that. I'm going to add a column and it will be the contact type. The value will be volunteer, if I can spell it. And then for this one, I can either set it to do not import, or I can just remove that column. If I had another, if there was something else that I needed to like replace all of, I can do that as well with the find and replace, or I can reset the mapping. Oops, I actually want to map that. I click next. Oh, look at this. There's a whole bunch of these who are duplicate records. So I have chosen to, on data errors, stop and show them. I'm going to choose to omit because I know that when I review these are all saying this is a duplicate, that's a duplicate. Okay, well, I don't want to create duplicate records. So I'm going to change that to omitting those. I click next. Everything looks good, no more errors. I'm going to click Save Mapping, Contact Import Demo, Save. That way it'll be ready for next time. I click Import. It's going to do its thing. It's telling me I've got some rejected records. Here's my successful ones. Here's the rejected ones. I can download this list and review the records that, oh, that must be, I think that's the file that I actually, oh, where did it go? Did it not open? What happened to it? Did I accidentally close it? I might have. I'm having that kind of day. I don't know why that's not opening. Did it open over here? Oh, my bad. It's over here. Sorry. Hang on. Hang on. So then you can see here the records that were duplicated or that were problematic, I should say, the ones that were rejected. What I also can do, I can click Go to List, and now I've got a filter created on the contact object. I'm looking at my console view of contacts. If there's something else I need to do with these records, like add a related record, notice that in this view, unlike the tabular view where it looks more like a spreadsheet, here when I click on any one of these records in the panel on the left, their information fills in on the right. So it's just a slightly different view of the data. But now, if there's anything else I needed to do, I've got their contact IDs. I can save this filter so that I can reuse it elsewhere if I needed to like continue to work with this group of records. Oh, and I meant to mention, I'm sorry, please feel free to jump in, ask questions. If there's anything, either post in the chat or come off of mute and feel free to ask. Any questions about importing? Let me go back to the tools menu. Something else. So let me go back to import because there was something else I wanted to mention too. If I can, is that still on my clipboard? Yay. Okay, so we're gonna find my, what did I call it? Contact. Oh, I might have to refresh. There is also the ability, Apsona kind of gives you two ways to do almost the same thing. In the import tool, let me go to that mapping that I just created. Oh, just do that. Sorry, bear with me. Oh, yeah, right. What? Next. There's this option to download match results. So when I do that, what it gives me is basically a copy of my existing, I don't know why these are opening so weird, the file that I imported or that I was importing that I pasted in, and then the ID. And of course, I just created all these records, so they're all going to have an ID. But if any of these that were like not duplicates, they would not be filled in. So it kind of gives you a way of seeing before I even click import, I can see which records, I get more information about the records that are duplicates. Cancel that. Similarly, from Apsona's dedupe and match tool, which this is kind of a two-part tool, and again, available on any object, not just standard objects, custom, managed package, whatever. You should see this option from the tools menu for every object. I can either go into the match CSV feature, which basically does exactly what we just saw. I can upload a file. Let's see, I think if I do match CSV, gives me a little preview of the file that I've selected. I click next. Oh, also I can use a saved action here too. And I'm pretty sure, is it that one? Oh, this one. I click next and it's already got all of my matching criteria selected. So I'm at, and I don't, these are the fields in my file, first name, last name, email, and then all the address fields. And I'm looking for exact matches on all of them. I don't necessarily need to do that. If I wanted to match only on, first name, last name, and email address, I don't have to select all of them. That's just how my saved mapping was set. So then I click next. What other fields do I want to see in my output? Next again. I supply a filter. This is where if you want to search every single contact in your entire system, you can, but there's typically a subset of records that you're looking for. Maybe they're not deceased or not archived or of a certain type or whatever. Then you would build that filter here. Then I click finish. When I click download results here, I'm getting kind of a similar thing where, oh, I don't know why stuff keeps opening over there, where I can see that here's basically all the fields that were in the file I started with. And then if there is a matching contact, their information is added here. So there's a couple different ways to kind of get at the same thing in Apsona, where you're trying to identify if these records already exist. Oh, God, so many things open. What you can also do, the other dedupe and match tool that we have, this is where you would actually build an action that finds duplicates and allows you to merge them together. So the match CSV is almost like preventative, right? Like you've got a file, you want to import some records, do they already exist? And the dedupe tool is more like there already are some duplicates, now we need to resolve them. So we typically recommend taking kind of an iterative approach to deduping, where you might run more than one dedupe action to find all of the duplicates. You've probably got some low-hanging fruit where the name matches, the email address matches, the street address matches. Like you're 99% sure these are really truly duplicates. So you create an action where you identify those first, probably an easy lift. Let's just, find that list and merge all of those. And then for the less and less strict matching criteria, you probably need human eyes on those. You probably really need, I mean, human eyes are going to be on all of them, but you need to investigate those a little more thoroughly. So what you start off with when building a dedupe action is, again, that filter. Do we want to search every single contact or only a certain subset of records? Then which fields do we want to use in the matching criteria? And this gives us some pre-built match functions where we can match on just some of the letters or words. Street address takes into account things like road versus RD, that sort of thing. There's all of these are actually listed and explained on in our support documentation. You have the option of doing an alphanumeric or fuzzy match only. You can ignore word order. The next tab is, in addition to these fields that you're matching on, do you want to see any other pieces of information about these contacts? Group selection lets you select only groups that have a certain number of records or more. And I also can specify that I want at least one of the members of the group, at least one of the records, to meet other criteria, meaning on the deduped records tab, on the filter tab, this is the whole population of records that you're searching. But here you can specify, well, at least one of them has to meet some other criteria. And then on master and field rules, you supply a scoring algorithm that determines which record is going to be the one that you want to keep. You can overwrite that. Some other options for overriding fields or combining. So when I click save and find based on the rules that I've defined in match fields, the filters that I've applied in deduped records and group selection, and the master algorithm, it goes through how many of a records and then comes up with a list where you can see it's kind of grouped the potential duplicates. And you can see like this lavender color heading is like, here's a group of potential duplicates, and here's another group of potential duplicates. So if I'm looking at these and think, oh yeah, those are all definitely duplicates, I can just click the merge all. I don't have to go any further. All of these records would disappear, and only the master record, which is the one that is bold and has that little check mark next to it. If as I'm reviewing these records, I'm like, hey, that one really shouldn't be the master, it should be the second one, I can just click on it and it automatically makes that one the master. Also, if as I'm reviewing this and the fields that I've added, if I'm like, I kind of need to look at a little more information, I can click this conjoined arrow and I get to see all of the contact fields side by side. I can either view all of them or just the ones that are mismatched. And when I do this, I also have the option of picking and choosing values from different records and then merging to create like a custom combination of those contact records. Also, if as I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, you know what? Ronald and Ronald are actually father and son. They're really not, this really isn't a duplicate. I want to mark these as not a duplicate. I'm going to remove them from this group. I click that little X and they disappear from the list. Note that it has not permanently identified them as duplicates. It's removing them from this run so that if I had a whole lot of records and I just wanted to merge them all after reviewing, those would not be merged.
Would there be a way to check if, like, if ours have any gifts, we wouldn't want to delete the record. We would want to move the gifts from one
Oh,
record to another. What would be the
yeah.
easiest way to do that?
Probably in that you could either do it as like either in group selection, one of the record, well, you could do that a few different ways. You could either add that to the filter criteria that you want to, because you can access, depending on what type of object um, you're deduping, if it was contacts or accounts,
Yep.
you can actually create filters on child objects. So I could filter for opportunities, like the existence of opportunities, and or that doesn't exist because I don't want to,
Okay.
something like that. There's a few ways you could do that.
Okay.
So let me go back. And so then, like, as you're getting looser and looser with the selection criteria, I mean, that's probably a bad example because would you really ever on just name, you're going to get a lot of hits there. But
Yeah.
the idea being that, you can, if you want to search for just everyone whose name matches and then,
Yeah.
go through, you actually can. If you're like, oh, you know what, those are not duplicates, I'm going to remove them from the list. And there's some like, oh, you know what? Maybe this group really is here, wait, let me unselect. This group, why did it not select that one? Is actually duplicates. I want to merge these. I can either, again, review by clicking the conjoined arrow, remove them, or if I click merge all, there are no group. What do you mean there's no groups selected? Do I have something weird selected here? What did I do? I swear, Apsona has been really weird today. Why is it not liking that? I did select two records. What? What is going on? Did I? Oh, do I have something else weird selected? Let's just try another one. That one is fine. What the heck?
Just doesn't like them.
I guess not. So anyway, when you click the merge all button, that's interesting. I might have to look more into that. Um, We typically recommend leaving that at using the Salesforce Merge API. That just ensures that any triggers that Salesforce would kick off because of deleting or recreating a record get launched as well. Then I can download those results just to keep that information. And then let's see. So what it gives you when you download, a couple of things that are really useful. Here's the ID of the record that we kept, the master. Here's the ID of the one that is no longer in existence. And here are all the IDs of the record, the related records that got updated with the new contact ID. So some pretty cool functionality there when you can get it to work right.
Mhm.
Any questions about the dedupe actions?
So when it's merging the records, say there's two different phone numbers on each record, does it only keep the one that you had checked as the master?
If it's in the same field, then yes. However, so this question actually comes up a lot with like email addresses too. If you
Yeah,
have multiple email addresses for someone, you don't really want one to overwrite the other necessarily.
right.
So what we'd recommend you do, let me just for any of them. Um, when you get this list, oh, I didn't even mention this, so I'm glad you asked that. There's this option to export the data, either grid data or all data. Grid data would be just the fields you see in the grid, and all would be every single contact field. So
Okay,
when you export the data, if you've got all the, this is a good example. We've got the alternate email, the personal, the work, and this isn't a good example because these are all the same. But
right.
if we were like if this record didn't have any address, like we don't want this one to overwrite this one, you can export this and then using the import update tool, just copy the address to the other field. So
Gotcha.
so it ends up in like the alternate email or other email.
Yep. Okay.
What we also have seen, I've seen one of our customers moves all the email addresses into like just a text field. So they
Hmm.
just all get kept. That way they don't overwrite a primary email address.
Great.
So you could do the same thing with phone numbers too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go into reports and merge actions just because they're awesome. So let's say you need to send your donors a gift acknowledgement or a gift receipt. Um, I've created this report that identifies, and I'll talk a little bit more about reporting, but you'll just please accept for now that this report pulls everyone who's given us a gift recently, and now we need to send them an acknowledgement letter. So I'm going to click this merge mail button. I'm going to run an existing merge action. I'm going to create the letters. I click run. So I download results and oh, you can kind of see, get a little preview of what the templates look like behind. So now I've got my receipts and I can send them out. I'm not sure if any of these, I was hoping to find one that has a, oh, well, this is a good, no, it's not a good example. Um, oh, there's one. So also if there were like multiple gifts or if there were one gift was split between multiple designations, those can all be very easily included in one letter. So you're not duplicating. I know a lot of there's always a little bit of I'm going to say like complexity with um, creating a merged document when there's multiple records. And the way that we do that in Apsona is kind of two things that I want to touch on. One is there are three components to a merge action. One is the template, and this is just a Word document with regular Word merge fields. If you've ever done a Word merge where you've got like your data file is in Excel and you insert merge fields into a Word document, that's all that this is. There's not like special coding or formatting that you need to do for Apsona to understand it. So there's the template, and you would upload that into Apsona using the documents object. This is just the Salesforce documents object. So I can add new, I can update existing. So like this is the existing one, my gift acknowledgement template. If I wanted to make changes to this, I can click download, make whatever changes, and then click replace. And now I've got a new copy of that template. So that's one piece of document merging. The second piece is the report, the data source. And it's typically a report. These are the records that I want to merge. And then the third piece of that is the actual merge action that we're configuring. And so I'm going to just kind of quickly walk through this. I know we're getting low on time. So I click next. This is where I select the template that I want. I can optionally add parameters if you needed to prompt for like a date range or something like that. I also can supply conditional templates if there was a scenario where, based on their constituency or the type of payment or gift that it was, you might have a different letter. You don't need to do that as a different report and a different merge action. They can be handled all in one. Then on the next step, I map all of the fields from my template to the fields in my report. Click next, and I have a whole bunch of other options here. I can actually include other files. I can append other files that are already included on that account record account, because that's what I'm this list, this report is based on account. I can also create a task that indicates that this letter was sent. In fact, let me go back because there's different types of merge actions too. Just want to show you. Document is what we just looked at. I can also create address labels. I can create a spreadsheet, or I can send an email with a document or a spreadsheet attached. Let me show you one that is an email with a document attached. Oh, and you can see on this one, I actually do have a different template set up. I'm also selecting an email template, which are managed the same way the documents are. I click next, mapping the fields both to my file output and my template. Next again. So in my logging options, I'm creating a task on this account that indicates the gift acknowledgement was sent. I'm saving a copy of the file, and I'm also updating the acknowledgement date and status based on today's date and the acknowledged status. I can also save the email in activity history as well, some date and currency formatting options. So when I click save and run here, what's going to happen is that file that we just saw gets created, gets attached to an email that is sent to the donor. I'm creating a task on the donor's account record that indicates the acknowledgement was sent, and I'm updating the acknowledgement date and status of the opportunity. Oh, and I'm saving the email in activity history. Although I think I just recently changed that. So what that kind of looks like, if I look at this is just an account record that gave us a gift back in March. I can see here is the record of the gift acknowledgement task. Here's a copy of the file that was created. And if I look at that gift, I think this is the right one. It was acknowledged on 3/10/2025. Now, you saw me doing that by going into Apsona, running a report, clicking on the merge mail button, but there's a couple other ways that I could go about that. You can actually create a button that just launches that merge action, or I can create a link. Like this is just a regular Salesforce homepage. This isn't like we're not in Apsona right now. This section at the top here is an embedded Apsona grid. I've created a link here to another grid. And then all of these links are links to Apsona reports that if I click on any of them, I don't know why, sorry, my internet is being a little bit weird today. When I click on that link, it opens in a separate window. Now I've got that same report where I can now click the merge mail button and run that merge action from here. So point being, you don't necessarily even have to go into Apsona to use Apsona stuff. And also, as a side note on that, did I mention earlier that there's two different types of licenses in Apsona? There's your fully, like the full standard license where you can do anything, all of the data management things, all create reports, um, all the things in Apsona, and what we call our specialized licenses that have more of like a view only experience, where if I was one of those specialized license users, I can go to Apsona, I can click on the tab, I wouldn't see any of these objects. I would see dashboards, I would see reporting tools, and that's about it. I would be able to run any of the reports unless they were in a hidden folder, but I could run the reports and run the merge actions, but I wouldn't have the ability to edit the report or create a new report. So by going to, oh, did I lose my homepage? Um, by adding links to reports on home pages, if it's a user who doesn't necessarily, they're not necessarily in Apsona for any other reason, this is kind of a good way of giving them quick, easy access to a report as well. Whew, that was a lot of words. Are there any questions?